Welcome to Dig Deep, the mining podcast. In this podcast, we go deep into mining news, hot topics, and live interviews with mining professionals and leading figures in the mining industry. Introducing your host, Rob Tyson, founder and director of Mining International and Mining International Executive, a leading global mining recruitment and headhunting agency.
Hi, mining community. Welcome back to another episode of the Dig Deep, the mining podcast, the show that brings you the latest insights, thought leadership and stories from across the global mining industry. In today's episode, we've got Mark Sumner, who's the CEO and Chairman of Daura Gold, a TSX-listed junior miner advancing high-impact exploration projects in Peru in the renowned Ancash region. We're going to discuss what attracted the team to the country, how the revaluation of the historic drilling at Antonella significantly upgraded the data set without drilling a single new hole, and what that means for confidence in the scale of the system. We're also going to speak about the district context, upcoming drilling plans at both their operations, and discover the potential behind the first systematic drill program at Cerro Bayo, and a lot more. And obviously, we're going to speak about Peru as a mining jurisdiction. So, Mark, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Rob. It's really great to be here. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, thank you. And as an avid listener, I wonder if you can just tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your career, how you got into the industry, and how your career has developed to what it is today.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've been working around the resource sector in the junior mining space specifically for a little over 15 years. And, I've been involved in a range of activities across capital markets, M&A, exploration and project development. I originally started on the finance side from a private fund, and then moved from the investor side to the sort of issuer side for project acquisition, exploration, development type work early in the 2010s. I've been working with a close group of partners across primarily South America for the last 12 to 15 years, specifically Peru, Colombia, Brazil, Chile, focused primarily on precious metals and copper. And so we've done a range of projects. Peru has been my primary focus for the last probably 7-8 years. But we've listed a few companies on London AIM, between London AIM, TSX, and ASX. So yeah, I mean, a pretty wide, diverse background of sort of project development and exploration.
Great. So I just wondered if you can just tell us a little bit about and give us a snapshot of Daura Gold.
Yeah, so Daura is we're TSXV listed gold exploration business. So the company has actually been around for a while. We started putting all of this together during the pandemic, around 2020, during a time that was, a very opportune time to put together projects and land packages. But it was a period of time that required tremendous patience, because there was, once you acquired those projects, there wasn't really much to do with them. It was a very different market than it is now. Particularly on the, capital market side, commodities pricing, gold and silver prices. It was just across the board a very, very different environment. But we started putting these projects together, between about 2020 and 2022. And then we listed the company in January of last year. And we were, it was a tiny market cap. We raised $1.5 million at 6 cents. About roughly 2.5 million Canadian dollar market cap, but it sort of gave us the base to go forward. Now we're trading at about 37 cents, 28 to $30 million Canadian market cap. We raised $1.5 million in January of last year. We raised $7 million at 25 cents in October. So the profile of the company has changed. We're still small, but the profile of the company has changed quite dramatically in a relatively short period of time. That we've had a significant uplift from not just from the commodities prices and the run in junior miners in general, but also we've had a nice uplift due to exploration results, and not just for our own projects, but also regionally for some of our neighbors as well. We're focused in Peru, and it's where our flagship Antonella project is that I think we'll probably talk about a little bit here. And as well as we've got an option on a project in the Deseado Massif of Argentina called Cerro Bayo with our option partner Latin Metals, which is another TSX-V listed business. And we just recently started drilling about a week ago at Cerro Bayo, which is it's a gold and silver epithermal in Argentina. So we've got a lot going on. We've got our flagship in Peru. We've got we're drilling on an option project in Argentina, and then we've got a handful of other projects that are sort of fit in the lower in the hierarchy, if you will, in terms of priority.
Yeah. I want to speak about Peru as a mining jurisdiction, but I'm going to speak about that a little bit later on. But I suppose first question is, what actually drew you to Peru out of obviously all the South American countries?
Yeah, Peru. As I mentioned before, I've worked in Colombia, Brazil, Chile, and Peru, specifically in South America. Peru has that really exciting combination of incredibly prospective geology. We can talk a little bit about the district that we're in Ancash, but throughout Peru, you've got these enormous systems, porphyry systems, epithermal systems that, as we've seen over time, we've got, a couple decades of pretty significant success in Peru showing discovery and development of these projects. But there's so much of the country is still underexplored. And so that's kind of what made it so exciting for me, is that you've got this incredible jurisdiction. It's a top 3 copper producer. It's a top 3 silver producer. You've got some of South America's great gold mines have been discovered and developed in Peru. Yet there's still so much ground to explore. There's still so much yet, to be discovered. So the opportunity for discovery in a jurisdiction that felt up and coming to me, sort of 10 or 12 years ago, is really what drew me to the country. And so, and we've seen a lot of ups and downs in the business in Peru over the last 10 or 12 years, but the trend has been incredibly positive. You've seen permitting improve, infrastructure has improved. You've got world-class mines like Antamina now and Las Bambas. So it's just, for all of those reasons, I think is what makes Peru so exciting and really probably my favorite jurisdiction to work in.
You've recently released some results which shows a 51% increase in gold equivalent gram meters from your historic core through your systematic infill sampling. Can you just walk us through what was actually missed by the previous operator, and how your technical team has identified this opportunity to, I suppose, materially enhance the data set without drilling any more holes?
Yeah, absolutely. So Antonella is an interesting project because it sits adjacent to one of the, if not the highest grade undeveloped gold and silver project on the planet, called San Luis. And it was drilled in 2011, about 2,500 meters of drilling. But all of the work was done in a very, in a very different environment and by a group that, likely didn't have the funding, to do a systematic sampling of the drill core. Basically, they drilled the project. They highly selectively sampled the core. 2/3 of the core was left uncut and sampled. And so the results that we did have, the assays that we had, it was all done up to compliance. And so, we put a 43101 compliant technical report around those results. But it was incomplete. And so, when our field team led by our VPX is a geologist called Stuart Mills, just in an evaluation of the core, recognized that there were significant intervals of core with visible vein mineralization that still needed to be cut and sampled. And this wasn't just core that was sitting in boxes of completely untested holes. These were infill samples. So, these, effectively incomplete drill intervals with large sections of uncut and unsampled core. And so the opportunity was just to go in and infill sample this core, complete those intercepts, and get a much clearer picture of what this project actually looks like. And we just put these results out actually yesterday, and as you said, it resulted in a 51% increase in total gold equivalent gram meters. But it also strung together some very, very impressive drill holes, with a standout hole of 22.4 meters at 4.36 grams per ton gold and 23 grams per ton silver from about 36.8 meters downhole. So very shallow mineralization, but very wide, high grade intercept. And so, it's completely changed the profile of the project for us, as you said, without even drilling a single hole.
Obviously, with the high-grade vein mineralization now confirmed in 9 of the 12 historic drill holes, how does this obviously new data change your confidence in the continuity and scale potential of the mineralization system?
Yeah, it's still very early days, and there's going to be a lot more work to be done, but clearly these results are incredibly encouraging for us. I think it's relevant to mention that, as I said before, proximity to San Luis deposit, as well as the Bonita deposit, which is a vein array on strike southwest of Antonella by about 1,200 meters. We're surrounded by these incredibly rich, high grade epithermal vein systems, and from Antonella to San Luis to Bonita, the mineral endowment of the Ancash is incredible. And so we're I think that with these results, we're pretty well placed for success to do some drill targeting, get our permits in place and start drilling the project later this year. But there hasn't been any modern systematic exploration carried out to date on the project. And aside from the work that we've started doing in the last year, there's a huge opportunity to not only take these drill results, do some drill targeting, and put together an incredibly robust drill program for later in this year, but also there's further room for discovery. Late last year, we discovered a separate vein system, to the north, to the north of Antonella. In the first instance, we thought, okay, maybe this is a vein extension within the same structural corridor. And, further structural work has identified it as a completely separate vein system in a separate structural corridor running directly parallel in the same northwest to southeast trend. So, as I said, there's incredible opportunity for more discovery in this area, and so it's early. There's a lot of work to do, but the fact that we've identified these wide, high grade intercepts in an area where it's ripe for this type of discovery. Our neighbors, Highlander Silver next door, started drilling their project at Bonita, which is on trend with Antonella. They started drilling that in July of last year. And they've just put out, high grade after high grade drill hole. And so these 20 to 25 meter holes between, 3 and 6 grams are starting to become quite common from these drill programs. So it all leads up to, our own drill program and a lot of excitement around that, because, it's just giving us a stronger base to take that forward.
Antonella is located immediately adjacent to Highland Silver Bonita project in the Ancash belt. How important is obviously is this district scale context when interpreting obviously the upgraded intercepts? And do you see geological parallels between Antonella and nearby systems?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's relevant to discuss just the Ancash department in general. It's one of the most prolific metallogenic belts. Tamina is about 120 or 130 kilometers to the southeast. It's one of the largest copper mines in Peru. But I guess more relevant to what we're doing is the Purina mine, which was Barrick mine, that they mined between the late 90s and about 2010 or 11. This was a David Lowell discovery, the world famous, explorationist David Lowell. He discovered Escondida and a number of other world-class assets, and Purina was one of them. They made the discovery in the mid 90s, and it ended up becoming a nearly 10 million ounce mine that sold to Barrick and was in production until about 2011 or 12. And that really, it's about 35 kilometers to the southeast of Antonella. But that discovery was really sort of the basis for further discovery in the district. And in the early 2000s, Silver Standard under Bob Quartermain discovered the San Luis deposit, which is right next door to us, about 8 or 10 kilometers to the east. And, San Luis, 350,000 ounces at 24 grams per ton gold, 8.5 million ounces of silver at 550 grams silver, incredible bonanza grade silver gold deposit. It's relatively small in terms of ounces, but it's also, as I've talked about exploration in this district, it's also significantly underexplored. So, we have a feeling that Highlander Silver is going to be pursuing those drill permits to start drilling that San Luis deposit, as they have been with Bonita. And Bonita, as I mentioned, is about 10 Ks to the south of San Luis, and about 1,200 meters to the southeast of Antonella. It's another vein array on trend with Antonella, and they started drilling that. And so all of these are, low to mid sulfidation epithermal vein systems, which carry, incredible bonanza grade of gold and silver. And so, the similarities between something like Antonella and Bonita are quite strong. It sits within the same structural corridor. We've already identified, as I mentioned, a new array of veins at Antonella North. There's a wide variety of mineral deposits within the Ancash that sort of fall within the intrusion-centered model, high grade LSE vein type prospects, and we believe that Antonella represents this geology quite well. I mean, we think that the results that we've pulled out of this recent infill sampling of the drill core, as well as the results that have come out of our neighbors drilling, set this up for a really exciting exploration exploration future.
Now that obviously this upgraded data set confirms high-grade continuity across multiple intercepts, what are the key objectives for the next phase of drilling at Antonella, and what milestones should investors be watching for during the course of this year?
Yeah, well, we're well financed, and to carrying out detailed work, the detailed work that's required prior to the next phase of drilling is really going to be the focus for now. And in parallel, running a permitting process for drill permits at Antonella. Our exploration manager, Martin Zagara, he's undertaken a detailed mapping and sampling program at Antonella. Those results have been coming out since September, but he's got direct experience working in the region. He was a geologist for Silver Standard in their first phase of drilling at Bonita, which is on trend with Antonella, where they drilled a 35.5 meter hole at 5.5 grams per ton gold. So Martin is very well suited and positioned to, help us take our field program in the right direction towards with the ultimate goal of putting some drill holes in the ground. But we've recently undertaken a satellite imaging process. We're doing a structural study. We're going to integrate all of that existing information into a high resolution mag survey program. So between all of those efforts, the key milestones are really complete our mapping and sampling, complete our geophysics and our structural study, feed those into a drill targeting exercise, and all, as I mentioned, all of that in parallel with a permitting process and robust community relations program to ensure long-term access and give ourselves a best possible chance of a successful drill campaign.
If we look at your other project, Cerro Bayo, This obviously recently announced your phase 1 program represents the first systematic drill testing of 15 priority targets generated through integrated geochemistry and IP geophysics. From your perspective, what makes this initial campaign particularly compelling in terms of obviously discovery potential?
Yeah, well, the address is incredible. I mean, we're sitting in the heart of the prolific Deseado Massif in Argentina, Santa Cruz. Over 600 million ounces of silver has been produced. Over 20 million ounces of gold has been produced in the last 2 to 3 decades. And Cerro Bayo represents one of the sort of few underexplored exploration plays within that district. And, the Cerro Bayo hydrothermal system is huge, similar to the rest of the Deseado. It's characterized by flat to rolling topography. The mineralization is variably preserved, due to block faulting and prior erosion. But the mineralization can broadly be split into 2 forms: continuous narrow veins that represent, the productive horizon, and evidence of boiling associated with precious metal mineralization. So, we've got a 2-pronged approach to exploration at Cerro Bayo, namely drill testing veins at surface, chasing high-grade sections of the veins, and scout drilling of the geochemical anomalies, sinters and jasperoids. Testing 22 holes across 15 targets. We believe gives us, our highest priority targets, rather, I think gives us our best chance of discovery here. And so, it's been designed that way, using IP and gradient array. It's a patient geochemical vectoring and geometry exercise. But, we've just started drilling about a week ago. And, I think that our results will be ready by early to mid-April. So, time will tell how that's going to turn out.
With approximately 22 diamond drill holes planned to test structurally controlled low sulfidation epithermal vein targets at depth, what are the key geological indicators you're hoping to confirm in this phase 1 program? And what would you define as a successful outcome from this first pass of drilling?
Yeah, I mean, in general, the vein drilling should return some significant intercepts. And by significant, more than 2 meters wide. For the sinters, we want to see evidence of better at depth type indicators. Our predicted productive horizon targets are between about 100 and 200 meters. So we want to see geochemical exploration vectors increasing with depth, or discrete anomalous structures that we can track on strike. So those are the types of things we're going to look for from this first pass of drilling.
Great. Obviously, I know Peru, as you mentioned in the introduction, is one of your sort of favourite jurisdictions across South America. I just wondered if you can just give us a little bit of history around Peru and their as a mining jurisdiction. I just wondered if you can give us a little bit of context to the country as a mining jurisdiction. Obviously, we got listeners from all over the world that may not be necessarily familiar with Peru. So just wondering if you can just give us an overview of the country and the historic nature of Peru and obviously in context with mining as well.
Yeah, sure. Peru, for many, many years sort of sat behind Chile as kind of the preferred jurisdiction. Chile has been known as one of the high quality or stable mining jurisdictions in South America for many, many years. And, largest copper producer in the world, some of the largest world-class mines. But Peru has that same potential, in the last 20 to 30 years of development shows that very clearly. You've got some of the largest copper mines on the planet in Las Bambas and Antamina, and many, many others. I mean, we could go through and sort of tick the list off and name all of them, but the country is full of world-class mines. You've got very unique geology from a couple of different regions of the country. You've got sort of elephant country in southern Peru, where they're looking for these massive world-class porphyry deposits. And then where we are specifically in the Ancash, You've got a range of different, really interesting, frankly, world-class deposits as well. Antamina's in Ancash, Purina, the 10 million, nearly 10 million ounce gold deposit that Barrick was producing from till about 2011 or 12 is also in the district. And then, just the grade at San Luis, and some of the more recent results coming out of these drill programs in the Ancash. So it's full of, incredible geology. It's diverse, and it's been a sort of constantly improving from a legislative and a permitting perspective. Projects are getting permitted. You're seeing more drill bits turning. Peru has been very, very proactive in promoting the country as a preferred, jurisdiction for foreign investment. And, we'll be at PDAC next week. The Ministry of Mines in Peru has sent a really strong contingency to PDAC, the last several years, promoting the country. I think, as I mentioned before, while it is full of world-class deposits, and, some of the biggest, all the biggest companies in the world are working in Peru, operating these mines, there's still so much discovery to be made. The district we're in is a perfect example of how much potential there is for discovery and development of new world-class assets. So it's just it's a very exciting jurisdiction. The people are tremendous. Best partners and associates in the business are in Peru, and for all those reasons, it's a pleasure. So Peru's a fantastic jurisdiction to work. Like I said, it's my favorite jurisdiction in South America, and I think that times that Daura is, in particular, and as many other companies as well, is, I think that there's a lot of really exciting times to come.
Great. And Mark, what's the sort of outlook for the next 12 to 18 months for Daura Gold? And if there's anything else that you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, the next 12 to 18 months for us, as I mentioned, we're drilling at Cerro Bayo, so that's very exciting. And those results are coming back in April. But as I mentioned, Antonella is our flagship. We think that, between Antonella and the rest of the land package there in the Ancash, we think that there's a multi-million ounce, there's potential for a multi-million ounce deposit. A robust community relations program, permitting, drilling. That's really what the next 12 to 18 months looks like for us. Ideally we'll be drilling, in the third quarter of this year, and depending on those results, we'd like to be drilling well into next year and in a first pass, and in the next over the 18-month period you mentioned, ideally we're designing and targeting a second pass of drilling as well. So drilling at Antonella is really the most exciting piece here for me. We're just really looking forward to getting those permits in place, and taking that project forward, because like I said, we think that's the potential for a large high grade deposit.
Great. Mark, really appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for telling us all about, obviously, Daura Gold, and obviously speaking about Peru, which I know obviously you're passionate about, and sharing with your audience a little bit about the history of Peru in mining and what the country does have to offer. If our audience wants to reach out to you, obviously follow your story, follow obviously the drill results or upcoming drill results, how can they go about doing that, and what social media platform channels are you on?
Yeah, we're active on X, at Daura Gold. We're also, our website, join the mailing list, dauragold.com. The mailing list goes out anytime we put out some news, and then we also do regular mailers as well, just with company updates, project and corporate related. So yeah, follow us on the website, follow us on X.
Yeah, great. We'll include those all in the show notes accompanying this episode for easy access. And this episode should be going out before PDAC or during PDAC. So obviously, if you're listening, you're going to be there. So reach out to Mark if you're walking the floor or in Toronto, and reach out to obviously Mark to catch up with him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. Well, all the best for the remainder of the year. Good luck with the drill campaigns, and hopefully you can come back on the podcast later this year or next year and give us an update.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. I appreciate the time, Rob. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the episode. As always, appreciate your continued support. Please keep sharing these episodes far and wide. Obviously, speaking about Peru as a mining jurisdiction, we may have had one episode off memory that we spoke about Peru, but appreciate if you can obviously share this across the people that you know in the industry, not just necessarily across South America or even North America, but share it globally. Because obviously Peru are open for business, and I suppose they would welcome other mining companies in various countries around the world to have a look at what could Peru offer as a mining jurisdiction. So thanks for listening, and until next time, happy mining.
Thank you for listening. Remember to reach out to Rob via the show notes, and be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Until next time, happy mining, helping each other to improve the mining industry.